Hey friend, as you're settling into that gentle space between waking and sleeping, soft place where your heart opens to wisdom and becomes naturally ready to receive deeper truths, let these ancient teachings find their way into your being. Tonight, I want to talk to you about something that lives in every human heart, something that can wake you up at 3 a.m. with a burning in your chest. You know this feeling. You're scrolling through your phone, and suddenly you see it. Your college friend's new house, your coworker's vacation photos, your sibling's perfect family picture, and something sharp twists inside you. Your breathing gets tight, your jaw clenches, that voice starts whispering. Why them? Why not me? What's wrong with me? This is jealousy. And tonight, I want to share something that might surprise you. The Buddha called this burning feeling one of your most important teachers, not because jealousy feels good, but because hidden inside that pain is information your soul needs to hear. Jealousy is your heart's way of showing you what you really want. It's your deepest longings dressed up in someone else's life. Here's what most people never discover. The very thing that makes you burn with envy is often exactly what will set you free. Tonight, you'll hear 7 stories of people who learned to turn their most painful jealousy into their greatest freedom. Their journeys will show you something the ancient masters knew. The same heart that burns with envy can learn to glow with what the Buddha called mudita, the beautiful joy that comes from celebrating others' happiness like it's your own. This isn't about becoming perfect. This is about discovering that jealousy, when you meet it with kindness instead of shame, becomes a doorway into the kind of peace most people never know exists. Let these stories wash over you as your body melts into rest. Let me share something personal with you, something I've never talked about publicly before. When I was 21, I became a monk in a forest monastery in northern Thailand. I thought I was escaping the world of competition and comparison forever. After all, we owned nothing but robes and bowls. We ate simple food, slept on thin mats, followed the same daily rhythm of meditation and study. What could there be to envy? But jealousy, I learned, doesn't need possessions to survive. Feeds on something much more basic, the desperate hunger to be seen, to matter, be chosen. There was an older monk named Brother Chai. He had this quality about him, like stillness wrapped in kindness. When he walked through the monastery, even the trees seemed to lean in to listen. During evening talks, our teacher would ask for his thoughts. Visiting pilgrims would seek him out for blessings. I told myself I was beyond such petty feelings. I meditated longer than required. I studied harder than anyone. I tried to perfect my walking meditation until it looked as graceful as his. But late at night, lying on my straw mat in the darkness, listening to his peaceful breathing across the dormitory, I felt something eating away at my chest. The jealousy was made worse because it was so secret. How could I tell my teacher that I, a monk seeking enlightenment, was burning with envy over another monk's spiritual gifts? How could I admit that every time a visitor went to Brother Chai for guidance instead of me, I felt small and forgotten? How could I explain that his very presence made me feel like I was failing at being holy? I started watching him obsessively, counting how many people approached him after meals, noticing when our teacher smiled at his insights, measuring my meditation posture against his effortless stillness. The comparison was poisoning everything. My meditation became about performing instead of practicing. My kindness became calculated instead of natural. Even my prayers became requests to be noticed instead of offerings of gratitude. One morning during our walk for alms in the village, our teacher, Master Boone, fell into step beside me instead of walking in his usual position. After we returned and finished our meal, he asked me to stay. "What's troubling your heart, young one?" he asked in that gentle way of his. I tried to deflect, talked about difficulty with concentration, but his eyes saw right through my excuses. "Jealousy," he said softly, is the suffering we create when we believe someone else's gifts take away from our own. Those words hit me like lightning. I realized, as if Brother Chai's wisdom somehow prevented mine from growing, as if his deep states of meditation blocked my own deepening. Master Boone taught me something that night that changed my life forever. He said, the medicine for jealousy isn't fighting the feeling or pretending it doesn't exist. The medicine is mudita, learning to find real joy in others' happiness and success. Mudita is one of the four boundless qualities the Buddha taught. Loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and peace, but mudita. This ability to celebrate others' good fortune might be the hardest one for most of us. It asks you to transform the very thing that creates jealousy, comparison, into a source of happiness. That night, instead of lying awake resenting Brother Chai's natural grace, I tried something different. I put my hand on my heart and whispered, may Brother Chai's wisdom keep growing. May his meditation go deeper. May his understanding help many beings. At first, the words felt fake, forced, but I kept practicing this every night, slowly training my heart to find joy in what I'd been using to torture myself. Gradually, something beautiful started happening. The tightness in my chest when I saw his ease began to soften. Where there had been burning, I started feeling something like warmth. This didn't happen overnight. For weeks, I felt like I was lying to myself, forcing feelings I didn't have. But slowly, I discovered something amazing. The heart, like any muscle, grows stronger with the right kind of exercise. The breakthrough came 3 months later when Brother Chai was chosen to give a special teaching to visiting students. Instead of that familiar stab of envy, I felt excitement. Genuine happiness that these people would receive wisdom from someone I'd learned to appreciate instead of resent. After his talk, I approached him for the first time not as a competitor, but as a fellow student. Our conversation revealed something that stunned me. He'd been struggling with his own feelings of not being good enough, comparing himself to other monks, questioning whether his practice had any real value. The person I'd put on an impossible pedestal was beautifully, perfectly human. Lisa was scrolling through Instagram at 11 p.m. when she saw it. Her old college roommate Emma, standing in front of a gorgeous house with a sold sign, keys dangling from her perfectly manicured fingers. The caption read, "Dreams really do come true. Our forever home. Number blessed, number homeowner, number living my best life." Lisa's phone screen blurred as tears filled her eyes. Here she was, 32 years old, still renting a cramped studio apartment, eating ramen for dinner 3 nights a week, while Emma was apparently living some perfect suburban dream. This wasn't the first time. Every scroll through social media felt like walking through a museum of everything Lisa didn't have. Emma's wedding photos from 2 years ago, her friend Jake's promotion announcements, her cousin's European vacation shots, her high school classmates' new baby pictures. Each image felt like a small knife, cutting away at her sense of being okay with her own life. The comparison was constant now. When Lisa got her morning coffee, she'd think about Emma probably having a fancy espresso machine in her new kitchen. When she came home to her tiny apartment, she'd picture Emma decorating spacious rooms. When she ate dinner alone, she'd imagine Emma and her husband sharing meals in their beautiful dining room. The worst part was how the jealousy was changing her. Lisa found herself making bitter comments on friends' happy posts. She'd started avoiding social gatherings because seeing other people's success in person felt unbearable. She even caught herself secretly hoping for Emma's marriage to hit some bumps, just so she wouldn't feel so far behind in life. One evening, after a particularly brutal scroll session that left her crying on her couch, Lisa called her therapist, Dr. Martinez, for an emergency phone session. I feel like everyone got a manual for how to be successful and happy, and I lost mine, Lisa sobbed. What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure out what Emma figured out? Dr. Martinez listened patiently, then said something that surprised Lisa. What if we looked at your jealousy not as a problem to solve, but as information to receive? What is your envy of Emma trying to tell you about what you really want? As they talked, Lisa realized that her jealousy wasn't really about Emma's house. It was about what the house represented: stability, accomplishment, being able to build a life with someone, having enough money to feel secure. Emma's success doesn't actually prevent you from having those things, Dr. Martinez gently pointed out. Her happiness doesn't use up the world's supply of happiness. Her house doesn't mean there are no houses left for you. Dr. Martinez introduced Lisa to an idea from Buddhist psychology called mudita, the practice of genuinely celebrating others' joy as if it were your own. This isn't about faking happiness when you're hurting, she explained. It's about recognizing that Emma's good fortune is actually evidence that what you want is possible in the world. Lisa started small. The next time she saw a friend's happy post, instead of immediately thinking about what she lacked, she tried to pause and genuinely feel glad for their joy. It felt awkward at first, like wearing clothes that didn't fit, but something started shifting. She realized that her resentment of others' happiness had been poisoning her ability to enjoy her own life. She'd been so focused on what she didn't have compared to others that she'd stopped noticing what she did have: her creative job that she actually loved, her close friendships, her freedom to travel and explore new interests. 6 months later, Lisa had unfollowed accounts that consistently triggered comparison and followed ones that inspired her toward her own goals. She'd started saving money more seriously, taken a relationship skills course, and began dating with clearer intentions about what she wanted. When Emma announced her pregnancy a year later, Lisa surprised herself by feeling genuine excitement for her friend. And when Lisa bought her own small house 2 years after that, Emma was one of the first to celebrate with her. Marcus had been working at the tech company for 4 years when his colleague Jennifer got the promotion he'd been hoping for. They'd started around the same time, worked on similar projects, had comparable skills. But somehow, Jennifer always seemed to shine a little brighter in meetings, connect a little easier with their boss, get assigned to the more interesting projects. The announcement came during the Monday morning team meeting. Jennifer was being promoted to senior developer with a significant salary increase and her own team to lead. Marcus sat in that conference room, smiling and nodding, while something twisted in his stomach like a knife. After the meeting, everyone gathered around Jennifer's desk to congratulate her. Marcus forced himself to shake her hand and say the right words, but inside he was burning with questions. Why her? What did she have that he didn't? Was he really that mediocre? The jealousy consumed his work life. Marcus started scrutinizing Jennifer's every move, looking for mistakes he could quietly point out. He found himself arriving earlier and staying later, trying to prove his dedication. He volunteered for extra projects, hoping to show management they'd made the wrong choice. But the harder he tried to outshine Jennifer, the more his own performance seemed to suffer. His code became sloppy because he was rushing to produce more. His collaboration with teammates grew strained because he was competing instead of cooperating. His creativity dried up because he was so focused on proving himself instead of solving interesting problems. The breaking point came during a client presentation where Jennifer was leading their team's demo. A technical issue threatened to derail everything, and Marcus had the knowledge to fix it quickly. For a split second, he considered letting her struggle, letting the presentation fail, proving that she wasn't as competent as everyone thought. But something in him couldn't do it. He stepped in and solved the problem, and together they salvaged the presentation. Walking back to the office afterward, Jennifer turned to him with genuine gratitude. "Thank you for saving that, Marcus. I couldn't have handled it without you. Your technical skills are incredible. I hope we can work together more closely." In that moment, Marcus saw his colleague clearly for the first time in months. Jennifer wasn't his enemy. She wasn't trying to steal anything from him. She was just a person doing her best work, dealing with her own pressures and challenges. That evening, Marcus had dinner with his mentor Sarah, a senior engineer at another company. When he confessed his struggles with jealousy over Jennifer's promotion, Sarah nodded knowingly. "I've been there," she said. "The hardest lesson I learned in my career is that other people's success doesn't close doors for you, it opens them. Jennifer's promotion proves that advancement is possible in your company. Her leadership creates more opportunities, not fewer." Sarah introduced Marcus to a concept she'd learned from a Buddhist teacher, mudita, the practice of finding genuine joy in others' achievements. "It's not about pretending to be happy when you're not," Sarah explained. "It's about training your heart to see others' success as good news for everyone, including you." Marcus started practicing this in small ways. When Jennifer shared a win in their team meetings, instead of immediately thinking about what he wasn't achieving, Marcus tried to genuinely appreciate her accomplishment. When she got recognition from their boss, he tried to see it as evidence that good work was noticed and rewarded. The shift was gradual but profound. As Marcus stopped competing with Jennifer and started learning from her approach, his own work improved. He began taking more initiative in meetings, presenting his ideas with more confidence, and collaborating more openly with teammates. A year later, when another senior position opened up, Marcus was ready. His combination of technical excellence and improved leadership skills made him the obvious choice. Jennifer was among the first to congratulate him, and they became close collaborators leading their respective teams. Looking back, Marcus realized that his jealousy of Jennifer had been pointing him toward areas where he needed to grow. Her success hadn't limited his possibilities. It had shown him what was possible and motivated him to develop the skills to get there. Sarah and her best friend Amy had been single together through their 20s, bonding over bad dates, shared disappointments, and dreams of finding the one someday. They'd joke about being old cat ladies together if romance never worked out. So when Amy met David and their relationship quickly became serious, Sarah was genuinely happy for her friend. Amy deserved love after years of dating men who didn't appreciate her. David was kind, funny, supportive of Amy's career, and clearly adored her. But as Amy and David's relationship deepened into engagement and then marriage, something ugly began growing in Sarah's heart. Every dinner with the couple became a reminder of what she didn't have. Every story Amy shared about David's thoughtfulness felt like salt in an open wound. The jealousy was especially painful because it was directed at someone she loved. Sarah felt ashamed of resenting Amy's happiness, but she couldn't stop herself from comparing every date she went on to Amy's perfect partnership. Her own relationships began to suffer because she was measuring every man against David's devotion to Amy. The worst moments came during Amy's wedding planning. Sarah was maid of honor, which meant being intimately involved in celebrating a love she desperately wanted for herself. Dress shopping, venue visits, bridal showers. Each event felt like another reminder that Amy had figured out something Sarah couldn't space. At the bachelorette party, watching Amy glow with happiness surrounded by friends celebrating her upcoming marriage, Sarah excused herself and cried in the restaurant bathroom. The shame of feeling jealous of her best friend's joy was almost unbearable. The wedding itself was beautiful. Sarah stood at the altar watching Amy and David exchange vows, tears streaming down her face, partly from happiness for her friend, but mostly from grief for her own loneliness. After the reception, Sarah went home to her empty apartment and had what she later called her dark night of the soul. She realized that her jealousy was poisoning the most important friendship in her life. She was losing Amy not because Amy was pulling away, but because Sarah's resentment was creating distance. The next week, Sarah called Amy and confessed everything. Through tears, she admitted to feeling jealous of Amy's perfect relationship, to comparing every man she dated to David, to feeling left behind and forgotten. Amy's response surprised her. Instead of being hurt or angry, Amy hugged Sarah and said, "I've been feeling like I was losing you and couldn't understand why. I'm so glad you told me. I've been worried that you didn't approve of David or didn't want me to be happy." They talked for hours about how Amy's marriage didn't mean the end of their friendship, how Sarah's singleness wasn't a reflection of her worth, and how they could navigate this new phase of their lives together. Amy introduced Sarah to something she'd learned in a mindfulness class, the idea of mudita, finding joy in others' happiness. "It's not about pretending you're not sad about being single," Amy explained. "It's about separating your sadness about your situation from my happiness about mine. My love with David doesn't use up the love available for you." Sarah began practicing this distinction. When Amy shared happy stories about her marriage, Sarah tried to celebrate her friend's joy while also honoring her own feelings about being single. She realized these could coexist. Being genuinely happy for Amy while also working on creating the relationship she wanted for herself. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but gradually, Sarah found that celebrating Amy's happiness actually increased her own capacity for joy. And when Sarah met Michael at a book club 2 years later, Amy was her biggest cheerleader and closest confidant throughout their courtship. At Sarah's own wedding 3 years later, Amy gave a maid of honor speech about how their friendship had taught her that love multiplies when it's celebrated, never diminishes. Jake had been trying to make it as a musician for 8 years when his former bandmate Tyler suddenly exploded onto the scene. They'd played together in college, written songs in Jake's dorm room, dreamed together about making it big someday. But while Jake had been struggling to book gigs at small venues and recording demos in his bedroom, Tyler had apparently been working with professional producers and building industry connections. Tyler's first album went viral on streaming platforms, leading to a record deal, radio play, and a national tour. The success felt personal in a way that Jake couldn't explain to anyone who hadn't lived it. This was someone who'd started exactly where Jake started, with the same dreams and arguably less talent. Tyler's breakthrough felt like a spotlight illuminating Jake's own failure. Jake found himself obsessively following Tyler's career online. Every new milestone, every positive review, every sold-out show felt like another confirmation that Jake had somehow taken the wrong path. He started second-guessing his own musical choices, wondering if he should have been networking more and focusing on artistry less. The jealousy began affecting Jake's creativity. Instead of writing songs that came from his heart, he found himself trying to create music that might achieve Tyler-level success. His authentic voice got lost in attempts to replicate what was working for others. The breaking point came when Tyler's album won a significant industry award. Jake watched the acceptance speech online, seeing his former collaborator thank people Jake had never heard of, talking about a journey that had somehow diverged completely from Jake's own path. That night, Jake seriously considered giving up music altogether. If Tyler, who Jake had always thought was the less talented songwriter between them, could achieve such massive success while Jake remained unknown, maybe it was time to accept reality and find a different career. But instead of quitting, Jake did something unexpected. He bought a ticket to Tyler's concert. Standing in the crowd, watching Tyler perform songs to thousands of screaming fans, Jake felt all his jealousy and resentment crystallize into a moment of clarity. Tyler's success wasn't taking anything away from Jake's potential. Tyler's breakthrough was actually proof that what Jake wanted was possible. After the show, Jake waited by the backstage door. When Tyler emerged and saw his old friend, his face lit up with genuine excitement. They went to a nearby diner and talked until sunrise about their different journeys in music. Tyler's path hadn't been as easy as it appeared from the outside. He'd faced years of rejection, struggled with anxiety about performing, and worked multiple jobs to fund his music career. His success came from persistence, lucky timing, and connections that had developed slowly over years of networking. Your music was always more honest than mine. Tyler told Jake, I've been following your releases online and they're incredible. You're staying true to something I think I've lost along the way. That conversation changed everything for Jake. He realized that Tyler's commercial success didn't invalidate Jake's artistic integrity. There was room in the music world for both commercial hits and authentic artistry. Jake returned to his music with renewed focus on what made his voice unique rather than what might make him famous. He started collaborating with other local musicians, built a dedicated following through intimate performances, and found deep satisfaction in connecting with audiences who resonated with his particular style. 2 years later, Jake's music caught the attention of a boutique label that specialized in singer-songwriters. His album didn't achieve Tyler-level fame, but it found its perfect audience and provided Jake with a sustainable music career. When Jake and Tyler crossed paths at a music festival where they were both performing, Jake felt nothing but gratitude for his friend's success and pride in his own different but equally valid path. Emma had always been the responsible one in her family, while her younger brother Alex seemed to coast through life with charm and natural talent. Emma worked hard in school, saved money carefully, made practical decisions about her career. Alex was spontaneous, charismatic, and somehow always landed on his feet despite taking risks that should have backfired. The family dynamics had been established early. Emma was the reliable daughter who helped with family problems and made sensible choices. Alex was the beloved wild child whose adventures provided entertaining family stories and whose rare visits home were celebrated like holidays. When Alex decided to start his own business at 25, with no business experience, no clear plan, and money borrowed from their parents, Emma was certain it would be another example of her brother's reckless behavior that someone else would have to clean up. But within 2 years, Alex's tech startup had been acquired by a major corporation for millions of dollars. Suddenly, the family's irresponsible child was financially successful beyond anything Emma had achieved through years of careful planning. The jealousy was complicated by Emma's role as the good daughter. She couldn't openly resent Alex's success without seeming petty, but every family gathering became a celebration of his achievements, while her steady career seemed mundane by comparison. Emma found herself mentally cataloging all the ways Alex's success was undeserved. He'd taken risks that should have failed, but happened to work out through pure chance. The resentment was poisoning Emma's relationship not just with Alex, but with their entire family. She started declining family invitations because she couldn't bear another dinner spent listening to stories about Alex's glamorous new lifestyle. The crisis came during their father's birthday dinner when Alex casually mentioned buying a house in an expensive neighborhood. Emma's carefully controlled composure cracked, and she made a sharp comment about how nice it must be to succeed without working for it. The uncomfortable silence that followed made Emma realize how bitter she'd become. Later that evening, Alex approached her privately. I know you think I just got lucky, he said quietly, but those 2 years building the company were the hardest of my life. I worked 18-hour days, nearly had a nervous breakdown, and came close to losing everything multiple times. Success isn't always what it looks like from the outside. Alex's vulnerability broke through Emma's wall of resentment. She realized she'd been so focused on the outcome that she'd ignored the struggle behind it. Their conversation revealed something Emma hadn't considered. Alex had always felt pressure to take big risks because he'd never been seen as the responsible one like Emma. His success came partly from compensation for feeling less valued for steady, reliable qualities. Emma began to understand that Alex's success didn't diminish her own accomplishments. His dramatic breakthrough didn't make her steady career less valuable. Their different paths reflected different approaches to life, not different levels of worth. Emma started practicing what she learned was called mudita, genuinely celebrating Alex's achievements while also appreciating her own different but equally important contributions to their family and her community. The shift changed their entire family dynamic. Emma became someone Alex could confide in about the pressures of sudden wealth, and Alex became someone who celebrated Emma's steady successes that might not make headlines but provided crucial stability. When Emma was promoted to department head at her company a year later, Alex was among the first to congratulate her and celebrate her well-deserved recognition. Michelle and her neighbor Carol had moved to their suburban street within months of each other, both young families starting out in modest starter homes. Their kids played together, they borrowed tools from each other, and they often joked about their shared struggles with home repairs and tight budgets. Over the years, though, Carol and her husband seemed to be consistently one step ahead. They renovated their kitchen while Michelle was still saving for appliances. They upgraded to a larger house in a better school district while Michelle's family was still cramped in their original home. Carol's husband got a series of promotions while Michelle's career stayed relatively stable. The comparison became unavoidable because they lived so close to each other. Michelle would see Carol's new car in the driveway, notice the landscaping improvements, observe the family loading up for what looked like another vacation. The jealousy was especially painful because Carol was genuinely kind and never boastful about her family's good fortune. She would even apologetically mention their successes as if she knew it might be difficult for Michelle to hear. But Michelle found herself keeping track of every upgrade, every improvement, every sign that Carol's family was pulling further ahead financially. What had started as friendly neighbor conversation became a source of constant comparison and inadequacy. The situation reached a peak when Carol's family bought a vacation cabin. Michelle learned about it when Carol invited her family to visit, clearly trying to include them in enjoying the new property. But all Michelle could think about was how they couldn't even afford a weekend at a hotel, let alone a second home. That night, Michelle confided in her husband about how inadequate she felt watching Carol's family's success. "It's like they're living the life we should have," she said. "Same starting point, same neighborhood, but somehow they figured out how to get ahead while we're still struggling." Her husband pointed out something Michelle had been too caught up in comparison to notice. "Carol's husband travels constantly for work and misses most of his kids' activities," he said. "They have more money, but we have more time together as a family. Their success came with trade-offs we weren't willing to make." This observation helped Michelle realize that she'd been focusing only on what Carol's family had gained without considering what they might have sacrificed. Every path through life involves choices and trade-offs. Michelle began practicing what she learned was called appreciating abundance without comparison. When she saw Carol's new landscaping, instead of immediately thinking about what she couldn't afford, Michelle tried to simply enjoy the beauty of the improvement and feel glad that her neighbor could create something lovely. The shift changed their entire relationship. Michelle stopped avoiding Carol and started genuinely appreciating their friendship again. She realized that Carol's success didn't limit her own family's possibilities. It actually demonstrated that upward mobility was possible in their community. 2 years later, when Michelle's husband received a significant promotion, Carol was among the first neighbors to celebrate with them. And when Michelle's family finally took their first real vacation in years, Carol watched their house and watered their plants with genuine happiness for their good fortune. Now, as these 7 stories settle into your awareness, let your body sink even deeper into rest. There's nothing for you to figure out right now, nothing to fix or change, just this gentle understanding flowing through you. The Buddha made a discovery that changed everything. He saw that we don't suffer because of what happens to us. We suffer because of how we hold on to things, how we grip them, how we try to make permanent what is always changing. He called this gripping upadana. It means clinging, and it shows up everywhere in our lives. The Buddha didn't just talk about clinging in general. He saw four specific ways we grip life that create jealousy and suffering. The first is clinging to pleasure. This isn't just wanting nice things. It's reaching for your phone when you're bored, looking for that little hit of good feelings. It's scrolling social media at midnight, comparing your real life to everyone else's highlight reel, each image making you feel smaller and further behind. The second is clinging to your opinions. This is when someone disagrees with you and it feels like a personal attack. When someone challenges what you believe and your whole sense of self starts crumbling. When you need to be right, need others to see the world exactly like you do. The third is clinging to rules and ways of doing things. This shows up as rigid thinking about the right way to live. The person who can't sleep if their routine gets interrupted. The parent who gets anxious when traditions change. Even spiritual people can get trapped here, becoming attached to their practices, believing their way is superior. The fourth is the sneakiest of all, clinging to your self-image. This is your deep attachment to the story of who you think you are. That voice that says, I'm not the type of person who, or I always, or I could never. This clinging to a fixed idea of yourself keeps you stuck in old patterns. The Buddha also taught about three deeper drives that feed all jealousy. The hunger for pleasure, always wanting the next good thing, the next experience that will finally complete you. The need to exist, to matter, to be seen, to be chosen, to be special. This is why your colleague's promotion stings so much, why your friend's success feels like your failure. And strangest of all, attachment to our own pain. We can become attached to suffering, holding on to anger for years, replaying stories of being wronged, or clinging to worry because it feels like protection. When you feel jealousy burning in your chest, you can ask gently, which type of clinging am I caught in? Am I grasping for pleasure, defending my views, following rules too rigidly, protecting my self-image, or holding on to pain? This awareness creates space between you and the attachment, and in that space, that's where your freedom lives. Tonight, as your body releases into deeper rest, you can begin practicing this ancient art of transformation. Mudita is the Buddhist word for sympathetic joy, the ability to genuinely celebrate others' happiness as if it were your own. This isn't about pretending to feel happy when you're hurting. It's about recognizing that someone else's joy doesn't diminish your own capacity for joy. Tomorrow, when you encounter someone else's success or happiness, you can practice mudita in 3 gentle steps. First, pause. Before your mind starts its familiar comparison routine, take 1 conscious breath. Create just a moment of space between seeing their good fortune and reacting to it. Second, appreciate. Look for 1 genuine thing you can celebrate about this person's happiness, not because you should, but because appreciation opens your heart to possibility. Third, connect. Ask yourself quietly, how does this person's success show me what's possible? Let their achievement become evidence of potential rather than proof of your limitations. The person who triggers your deepest jealousy is often your most important teacher. They're showing you what you value, what you want, what's possible in this world. Their success doesn't close doors for you. It proves that such doors exist. As these teachings integrate into your being during sleep, something beautiful shifts in how you experience the world. You begin to see that every person's success adds to the total amount of possibility rather than taking away from what's available to you. The colleague who gets promoted shows you that advancement is possible in your field. The friend in the beautiful relationship proves that deep love exists and can be found. The sibling who achieves their dreams demonstrates that your family carries the capacity for fulfillment. Instead of living in a world where you must compete for scarce happiness, you discover you inhabit a universe where joy multiplies when it's shared, where success creates more opportunities for success, where love expands when it's celebrated. You stop asking, why not me? And start asking, what can I learn? You stop wondering, when will it be my turn? And start exploring, how can I grow toward what I desire? Most beautifully, you discover that when you genuinely celebrate others' happiness, they feel it. Your real joy in their success creates deeper connections than any amount of polite congratulations ever could. The Buddhist masters knew something our world has forgotten. The heart that learns to find joy in others' good fortune becomes a magnet for its own good fortune. Not because of magic, but because such a heart approaches life with openness, appreciation, and possibility rather than scarcity, resentment, and fear. As you drift toward sleep, carrying these teachings into your dreams, know that you're already free. Jealousy, comparison, and competitive suffering are learned habits, not fundamental parts of your nature. Your heart already knows how to love without possessing, how to appreciate without comparing, how to celebrate others' joy as easily as your own. These are your natural capacities temporarily covered by old conditioning. The practice is simply remembering what you already know. The journey is coming home to what you already are. When jealousy arises tomorrow, and it will, because you're beautifully human, you can greet it as information. You can say gently, here's my heart showing me what I value. Here's my soul pointing toward what I desire. You don't need to eliminate jealousy from your experience. You only need to transform your relationship to it, learning to receive its teachings without being imprisoned by its pain. Tomorrow you'll wake with hands a little more open, heart a little more spacious, mind a little more aware of the abundance that surrounds you always. There is enough joy for everyone. There is enough success for everyone. There is enough love for everyone. Your awakening to mudita is already transforming not just your heart, but the heart of the world. Sweet dreams, dear friend. May you rest in the gentle knowing that everyone's happiness, including your own, is worth celebrating. May your heart learn to glow with the same warmth it once burned with. And may you remember, always, that you are already free. You're simply learning to live like it.